living insects or larvae, kills and mummifies them, and then it grows from the body of the insect. For the production of its substitute in laboratory, this spore or sac of the fungus is taken out and grown on the PDA plate. Then the colony grown out of the spore is taken out and is inoculated with autoclaved cereal. The inoculated mixture is kept in an incubator at 24 degrees Celsius temperature for a month.
Hello and a very good morning. It just past 8 this Thursday morning and we are back again with all the news on the Breakfast News. I am Nancy Kohli and over the next 1 hour we'll get you news from across the nation, world, sports and business updates as well. But first, the top stories we're tracking at the top of it. Dealing a further blow to the JDS-Congress coalition in Karnataka, 2 Congress MLAs resign. 10 rebel Congress JDS MLAs moved the Supreme Court against Karnataka Assembly Speaker K.R. Ramesh Kumar and the Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy, saying their resignations are deliberately not being accepted. The matter to be heard today. It's a major crisis for the Congress that's brewing in Goa after Karnataka. 10 of 15 Goa Congress MLAs resigned and joined the Bharatiya Janata Party. The Congress that emerged as the single largest party after the 2017 Assembly elections in Goa is now reduced to only 5 MLAs. In a major boost to rural road connectivity, the Cabinet approves the launch of Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana Phase 3, 1,25,000 kilometers of the roads to be networked and at an estimated cost of 80,000 to 50 crore rupees. The Code on Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Bill also gets a green signal. 13 central labour laws brought into the ambit of the new code. Rules also framed for women working in the night shifts. Cabinet approves the amendments to the POCSO Act, providing death penalty provisions for sexual offences against children. The bill for empowerment of transgender person also gets the Cabinet nod. Amendment bill to streamline adjudication of the interstate river water disputes also approved. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman replies to the budget discussion in the Lok Sabha, reiterates the government commitment to fiscal consolidation without compromising on expenditure, says centre taking many steps to achieve the $5 trillion economy mark. In a good news on the monsoon front, the rain in the week ending Wednesday have been above average for the first time in the country since the start of the season on the 1st of June, helping the farmers accelerate the planting of the summer sown crops and easing concerns of drought. In sports news, New Zealand sealed their place in the ICC World Cup final, beat India by 18 runs in a thrilling semi-final match at the Old Trafford. Matt Henry and Trent Boult sparked India's batting collapse. It's England versus Australia in Birmingham in the second semi-final. In Wimbledon, Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal to meet in the semi-finals. It will be their first match at the Wimbledon in 11 years. The other semi-final will feature Novak Djokovic and Roberto Bautista Agut. First up in Karnataka, another nail was struck in the coffin of the Congress JDS coalition government with 2 more of the Grand Old Party's MLAs resigning. Now, when the 2 Congress MLAs reached the assembly to submit their resignations, a scuffle broke out between them and the Congress MLAs. And following this ruckus, the BJP has sought the resignation of the Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy, claiming that he has lost the majority in the House after the spate of resignations. The Assembly Speaker has, however, not yet accepted any resignations. If all the resignations are accepted, then the coalition will be reduced to a head count of 100, which is short of the halfway mark given the reduced strength of the House. Chief Minister Kumaraswamy has called a cabinet meeting today morning. Section 144 has been imposed around the Vidhan Sauda. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court will hear the plea of the 10 rebel Congress and the JDS MLAs alleging that the State Assembly Speaker is deliberately not accepting their resignations. And let's now go across to our correspondent Aisha Khanam, who is joining us this morning with more updates on the phone line on the latest on the crisis in Karnataka. Aisha, good morning. The Karnataka government barely hanging by a thread, as more resignations continue to pour in. Now, in such a scenario, what is the role expected of a speaker? What is he expected to do under such circumstances? Aisha, are you with us? Okay, we'll try and reconnect with the correspondent Aisha Khanam, but we were telling you the latest about how more and more MLAs are continuing to resign of the Congress and the JDS, resigning in Karnataka, reducing the coalition to a minority, and all eyes continues to be on what role the speaker plays in these circumstances. While the Karnataka crisis also echoed in Parliament as well, and the uproar by the Congress over the political crisis stalled the major part of the proceedings in the Rajya Sabha for the second straight day yesterday. The upper house was adjourned thrice before being adjourned for the day after the Treasury and the opposition benches agreed to continue the discussion on the budget today. In the Lok Sabha too, the Congress raised the issue for the third consecutive day. The Congress, the TMC, the DMK and the NCP walked out in protest. The government, however, distanced itself from the crisis, saying it was the Congress party's internal matter. And let's once again go back to our correspondent Aisha Khanam, who's been keeping a track of developments on that front. She's joining us over the phone line this morning. Aisha, good morning. The Karnataka government, they're barely hanging by a thread with more resignations pouring in. Now, in these circumstances, we know that the political instability is what we are seeing these days around in Karnataka. But what role is expected of the speaker to play under these circumstances?
Well, Nancy, all eyes will be on the speaker for the acceptance of resignations. But today's biggest development will be the cabinet meeting today.
Right.
Chief Minister Kumaraswamy has called for the cabinet meeting, and although the fact that all the ministers have resigned and they've submitted their resignation letters to their respective party chiefs, but these resignation letters have not reached the Raj Bhavan. So therefore, Kumaraswamy claims that this cabinet meeting can be held and all the ministers will attend this cabinet meeting. And some important decisions have to be taken in this cabinet with regard to the state administration, and also a few pending decisions with regard to the acquisition of land in Bellary for industrial development. So this cabinet meeting is very crucial, and also Kumaraswamy might discuss about the instability that the government is facing at the moment, and the fact that tomorrow the assembly session will be held.
Right.
So this cabinet meeting will stand as an agenda for the session to be held tomorrow, and this session is very crucial, very important, because in this session the finance bill has to be approved, and if the finance bill is not approved, then that will be a big setback to the government. The finance bill has to be passed. But if this falls, if the finance bill falls, it will be a big setback to Kumaraswamy, and he will be left with no decision than to call it a quits. So therefore, today's developments will be focused on the cabinet meeting, and on the other hand, the Speaker's office will also be in focus, because yesterday there were two more fresh resignations, and the Congress is making efforts to see that no more fresh resignations reach the Speaker's office.
Okay. Aisha, that crucial cabinet meeting is going to be coinciding with the plea that will be heard at the Supreme Court that has been filed by the Congress JDS MLAs against their resignation not being accepted. So that's also going to be closely watched there, in Karnataka. But what's really at the root of the rebellion could we say that this is the old mega feud between the Congress and the JDS that has always been at the play?
Yes, absolutely, because ever since this coalition was formed, there was no coordination between the JDS and Congress workers at the ground level. Although for political reasons, the Congress and JDS formed the government to keep the BJP away from power. So, but the ground level, this coalition never existed, and it was very evident during the Lok Sabha elections when both the parties voted against each other and they voted for BJP. The workers from Congress worked for BJP candidate in BJP supported candidate in Mandya. So it was very clear that the coalition the coalition did not percolate to the ground level, to the grassroots workers, and that was very evident. And also the Congress, many senior leaders in Congress felt that the JDS was growing at the expense of Congress in the state.
Sure.
So therefore, many senior leaders rebelled about this coalition, and ever since this government is formed, over 13 months, there have been six attempts to destabilize the government, and by the Congress MLAs themselves. And also, the 6 attempts, many Congress leaders have rebelled against their own party and against the coalition government. Now, this seems to be a final blow to the government,
right,
where the MLAs have remained determined on the decision not to withdraw the resignation, and this has led to a crisis where the BJP has met the governor yesterday and said that there is total constitutional breakdown in the state, and Kumaraswamy should resign immediately.
Right. All right, Aisha, thanks very much for joining us for the moment. We'll, of course, keep a track of all the latest developments there coming out of Karnataka, while interesting developments taking place there, and remains to be seen what really happens in the days to come. And in a dramatic turn of events in Goa, 10 of the total 15 Congress MLAs in the assembly split to merge with the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party. They met the Speaker of the Goa Legislative Assembly, Rajesh Patnaikar, in the presence of the Goa Chief Minister Pramod Sawant. Patnaikar confirmed receiving a letter from the 10 MLAs for the merger with the BJP and said that he had accepted it. The Congress group that has split from the party said that the merger with the BJP was aimed at the development of Goa and strengthening of the state government. While the move significantly increases BJP's strength in the House from 17 to 27 MLAs, while also consolidating the BJP-led state government.
10 MLAs from the Congress have given the representation to me, being a speaker, that they are merging with the BJP party. I mean, it is a legislative wing of 10 people, of 10 MLA. Honorable CM Dr. Pramod Sawant, who is the leader of the ruling group in the House, leader of the House, that the strength of the BJP party has been changed. These only 2 letters were given to me.
10 MLA उनके अपोजिशन लीडर के साथ भारतीय जनता पार्टी में मर्ज हो चुके हैं। भारतीय जनता पार्टी की स्ट्रेंथ जो 17 थी अभी 27 हो गई है। They had come for the development of the state, development of their constituency.
And let's now go across to our correspondent Shishir Shalar, who is joining us on the phone line with the latest developments that are taking place in Goa. Shishir, good morning. It seems that the winds of political instability in neighbouring Karnataka has reached Goa. Shishir, it's the Congress meltdown in Goa now after Karnataka, and the Congress there is suffering a great blow, a great setback.
Well, absolutely, Nancy. It's a major setback for the Congress. Actually, we all were actually eyeing to the development from the Karnataka, but later on in the evening, we got the details from the Goa, which absolutely are shocking for the Congress here, because currently, if you look at the entire party stand, especially in Goa, basically, the Congress has only 5 MLAs left in Goa Assembly. Earlier, the numbers were actually 15. And when in 2017, when the election took place in Goa Assembly, the Congress have won 17 seats, but in spite of that, they couldn't hold that position. And right now, we can see the consolidation took place here. And most of the MLAs have joined BJP. Of course, the MLAs have said that currently they are not happy with the working pattern of the Congress party, especially the state political leadership they are not happy with. And that's the reason they are actually joining hands with the BJP. Now, here the most important fact is that nearly 2/3 of the party legislators have merged with the BJP here. And that's the reason, if you look at the entire the amendment of 2014 says that it does not considered as a split, because nearly 15 out of 15, near 10 people have joined BJP, and that's the reason it is called as a merger here. So obviously it raises a question mark on the existence of Congress in Goa Assembly, that how they will take it forward now. Will there be any kind of action from the Congress? But so far we got to know is that there has been official press release issued by the Goa Congress office, and no party functionary, the senior party functionary has commented on it right now. Well, in the latest development, we've heard that all the 10 MLAs from the Congress have now gone to the Delhi to meet the BJP senior party leadership there. And probably after coming back to Goa, they'll probably a shuffle. It's not been confirmed yet officially by the party, but there's speculation that the media reports that they're probably a shuffle in the cabinet to accommodate these 10 MLAs in the party.
Sure, all right. Well, that remains to be seen, and Shishi will of course keep a track of all the developments on that front with you through the day-to-day. Thanks very much for joining us for the moment though. And moving on now, the Union Cabinet chaired by Prime Minister Modi took a slew of decisions yesterday involving the inaction of new laws which will serve to raise the bar on the ease of living in the country. Now, be it the rural road connectivity or the safety of children from sexual offenders, or even be the right of the transgenders, or the interest of workers and people falling victim to the Ponzi schemes. Most of the cabinet decisions are cut out for landmark status in the coming years. Our correspondent Shailendra Mishra is now joining us with more details on that. Shailendra, good morning. The Union Cabinet, they're making important amendments and bringing in key bills. You know, we're talking about Cabinet approving the banning of the Unregulated Deposit Schemes Bill 2019, which is aimed at tackling the menace of illegal deposits taking activities in the country, and also in fact the death penalty under POCSO being cleared. It will make punishment more stringent for the sexual offenders. So landmark decisions there taken by the cabinet yesterday.
बिल्कुल नैन्सी, कई अहम फैसले कल की कैबिनेट की बैठक में लिए गए हैं। पूंजी स्कीम से निवेशकों को बचाने के लिए अहम फैसला लिया गया। वहीं पोस्को एक्ट में बदलाव से जुड़ा एक बहुत अहम फैसला हुआ। हम जानते हैं कि बच्चों से जुड़े जो यौन अपराध हैं उसमें और सख्त प्रावधान किए गए हैं सजा को लेकर, और मौत की सजा के प्रावधान भी बदलाव के जरिए अब सुनिश्चित किया जाएगा। हम जानते हैं कि ये भी बदलाव किया गया कि जो बाल पोर्नोग्राफी है उसको लेकर सजा का प्रावधान और जुर्माने का प्रावधान इससे पोस्को एक्ट में बदलाव के तहत रखा गया। तो दरअसल ये इस एक्ट में बदलाव के जरिए कोशिश ये है कि जो बाल अपराधों की जो घटनाएं हैं, जो बच्चों के खिलाफ जो यौन अपराधों की जो घटनाएं हैं, वो उसमें कमी लाई जा सके। यही वजह है कि पीड़ित बच्चों के संरक्षण को लेकर उपाय किए गए हैं इस अमेंडमेंट में। उसके साथ ही साथ सख्त सजा के प्रावधान जिसकी बात कही जा रही थी, अगर बच्चों के खिलाफ जो यौन अपराध होता है उसमें दोषियों को मौत तक की सजा का प्रावधान किया गया। तो निश्चित तौर पर बहुत अहम फैसला इस मामले में कल की कैबिनेट की बैठक में हुआ है। जी नैन्सी।
ओके, all right, Shailendra, thanks very much for joining us for the moment and sharing those inputs. So major cabinet decisions they had taken yesterday, in fact bringing in important amendments and key bills as well. Moving on now, the Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has assured the members of the Lok Sabha in her reply to the general discussion on the Union budget that the government will stick to the fiscal consolidation roadmap without compromising on public spending. She said India is on course to becoming a $5 trillion economy by 2024-25 on the back of a range of initiatives such as the heavy infra spend, policy measures to boosting foreign investment and creating jobs, apart from backing farmers to the hilt. The discussion began in the Rajya Sabha too, but could not continue much due to repeated disruptions and adjournments thereafter. And news now on the monsoon front. While India's monsoon rains in the week ending on Wednesday were above average for the first time since the start of the season on the 1st of June. Good monsoon is expected to help farmers accelerate the planting of summer sown crops and also easing the concerns of drought. Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana and Chandigarh also witnessed good rainfall, bringing respite from the scorching heat and humidity. Monsoon rains are crucial for the farm output and economic growth, as about 55% of India's arable land is rain-fed. According to the Met Department, India received 28% more rainfall than the 50-year average in the week to the 10th of July. Soyabean and the cotton growing central India received 38% more rainfall in the week. The Met Department has predicted good rainfall in the coming days as well. Moving on now, aimed at increasing the cooperation and enhancing the skills of the Indian and the French Air Force, Garuda 6 exercise is underway at the Mont de Marsan Air Base in France. The 6th edition of the exercise has been going on since the 1st of July and ends on the 12th of this month. The highlight of this 2-week-long exercise is Rafale that will soon be part of the Indian Air Force. Our correspondent Vishal Barrister brings you the special report from the Mont de Marsan in France.
To take on the skies, this is Sukhoi 30, followed by Rafale, Mirage 2000 and the French advanced trainer Alpha Jet. Supporting the refueling in the skies is the Indian IL-78.
Right now I'm here at the Mont de Marsan Air Base, and as you can see, the Sukhoi 30s are getting ready. We are in the last leg of the exercise that has been going on since 1st of July and that ends on the 12th of July. And this is the mission of large force engagement, which means that the area of engagement is very large, goes up to around 100 kilometers. 4 of our Sukhois along with 6 to 8 aircraft from the France, including Rafale, would be participating in this mission.
110 officers and technicians from the Indian Air Force are participating in this exercise, which sees 2 waves in the day and 2 in the night. The whole exercise is being monitored through high-tech radars in the control room, where both Indian and French officers are closely monitoring the situation.
You know, for me, it's my 3rd time with you guys of the Indian Air Force. I made Garuda number 4 in 2010 in France, 2014 in Jodhpur in India, and now I'm the exercise director for Garuda number 6. So it's always the same pleasure, and it's an honor to have you here in France for that edition.
There is a lot to learn from both the nations, and the Indian Air Force is making full use of this opportunity.
ये वाकई में बहुत बड़ी अपॉर्चुनिटी है इंडियन एयरफोर्स के लिए, बिकॉज हम दूसरे देशों के साथ जाके उनके साथ एक्सरसाइज करते हैं. हमें पता चलता है कि वो क्या प्रैक्टिस फॉलो करते हैं, हम क्या प्रैक्टिस फॉलो करते हैं, और हम दोनों ही बराबर की फोर्सेस हैं.
विंग कमांडर, ये बताइए कि ये हम लार्ज फोर्स एंगेजमेंट की बात करते हैं तो कितने एयरक्राफ्ट उसमें इन्वॉल्व हो सकते हैं, और यहाँ से आप क्या क्या मॉनिटर कर रहे हैं?
लार्ज फोर्स एंगेजमेंट में 10 से 12 से लेके 25 से 30 एयरक्राफ्ट तक इन्वॉल्व हो सकते हैं, डिपेंडिंग ऑन वेरियस फेसेस ऑफ द एक्सरसाइजेस. और यहाँ पे रह के हम एक पर्टिकुलर टीम को कंट्रोल करते हैं. हमारे पास 2 टीम हम बनाते हैं. हर टीम कंट्रोल की जाती है या तो अवैक से या कंट्रोल रूम से. तो यहाँ पे रह के हम देखते हैं कि कोई एक पर्टिकुलर टीम जो हमें दी गई है, हम उसे कैसे कंट्रोल कर रहे हैं और कैसे हम बेस्ट लेसन लर्न कर सकें इस फाइट से.
The exercise is an opportunity to exchange knowledge and experience for both the countries.
To Captain Shah, first of all, how has been your experience this time with Rafale?
Our experience has been great. Our experience has been wonderful, not just with Rafale, but with the French Air Force as a whole.
Great experience, and also with him is Group Captain Rodriguez. He is formerly known as Rods. So you've been training here along with the French A team. So how challenging was it?
It was a great experience, and more than challenging, it was a learning, much more learning value for us. Primarily because they work on same NATO standards, so in terms of understanding each other it was not difficult, but going through various phases, that is starting from the basic fighting maneuvering to large force engagements at each stage and integrating with them, I think the learning value was quite a bit, and we've got lots to take away and to continue to progress while we move ahead in years.
Group Captain Arvind, so what was your role?
I'm commanding the Illusion 78th Squadron of the Indian Air Force, and our job was to bring the Sukhois all the way from India to France and take them back. That is the major task.
You flew from Agra?
We flew in from Agra, that's right. And we are also flying a few missions along with the Sukhois and the Rafales in the large force engagements this week.
The Vice Chief of the Indian Air Force, Air Marshal R.K.S. Bhaduria, and Indian Ambassador are also expected to participate in Garuda 6, which ends on the 12th of July.
With the landing of this fighter plane, the first wave of day is complete. It is followed by one more for the day and 2 in the night. The exercise continues till 12th of July. With cameraman Anand Kumar from Mont de Marsan base in France, this is Vishal Barrister, DD News.
Moving on now, the US has accused Iran of a crude and transparent attempt to extort payments from the international community by violating the 2015 nuclear deal. The US has called an emergency meeting of the International Atomic Energy Agency in Vienna, where it threatened further sanctions against Tehran. Iran is stockpiling and enriching uranium beyond the limits set in the 2015 accord that President Donald Trump has abandoned. In response to U.S. accusations, Iran's ambassador to the IAEA has said that all Iran's nuclear activities are monitored by the agency and that they have nothing to hide. It has also vowed to reverse the stockpiling if it is given compensation for economic losses. In more international news now, as the diplomatic row between the US and the UK deepens, Britain's ambassador to Washington, Kim Darroch, has resigned, saying the current situation makes it impossible for him to carry out his role. The resignation came after Donald Trump labeled him stupid and wacky, quote-unquote, following the release of confidential memos from the envoy in which he branded the US president's administration inept. UK Prime Minister Theresa May stood by Darroch and told Parliament that it was a matter of great regret that he has felt it necessary to leave his position. An agreement between the OPEC and its allies to extend the oil output cuts until the end of March 2020 will lower inventories, help stabilize the market and also address price volatility. The Iraqi oil minister has said this while speaking with the media on the sidelines of an energy conference in Baghdad. The OPEC and allied producers led by Russia agreed this month to prolong the oil output cuts, seeking to prop up the price of the crude as global economy weakens and the US production has soared. Iraq has also hoped that the navigation in the Strait of Hormuz will remain open and uninterrupted. Recent months have seen a bout of instability in the region, with 6 tankers attacked since May amid escalating tensions between Tehran and Washington. UN is close to an agreement with Syria on setting up a constitutional committee, a long-awaited step in a stalled peace process. This came after the meeting between the UN envoy to Syria and the Syrian foreign minister in Damascus. UN has also called for a return to stability in the Idlib province, where a government offensive has targeted the last major rebel stronghold, and said a truce there agreed last year between Russia and Turkey should come back into force. Meanwhile, the airstrikes have killed 7 people in the rebel-held city of Jisr al-Shughur in Syria's northwest Idlib. Over 14 others were also injured after Syrian government airstrikes targeted the city's hospital. At least over 500 civilians have been killed and more than 2,000 people injured since the Russian-backed assault on the last rebel bastion in northwestern Syria began 2 months back. Around 3 lakh people fleeing bombardment have moved towards the Turkish border since April, prompting the UN to warn that Idlib was on the brink of a humanitarian nightmare. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for more funding and the UN support to fight terror in Africa, but said the government should do more to curb poverty, abuse and neglect that was driving it. He asserted that while nothing can justify terror and the violent extremism, they do not arise in a vacuum. He also pointed out the grievances that are often driven by state violence and the abuse of power. Last week, 11 people were killed in an attack by an Islamist militant armed group in northern Mozambique near its border with Tanzania, the latest in a spate of execution-style attacks in the area. And we are moving on now to sports news and talking about the World Cup. Well, yes, New Zealand has reached the finals of the ICC World Cup with a stunning 18-run win over India at the Old Trafford. The Black Caps survived a late flush from Ravindra Jadeja to reach the second straight final. And chasing a 240, India suffered a dramatic top-order collapse to be dismissed for 221.
New Zealand reached their second successive World Cup final after dramatically toppling India by 18 runs at the Old Trafford in Manchester on Wednesday. Star batsman Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli had misfired at Old Trafford. India lost key batsmen Rohit Sharma, Kohli and KL Rahul for just 1 run each as they slumped to 5 for 3 and were 24 for 4 when Dinesh Karthik was out for 6. But India recovered to 150 for 6 of 40 overs, needing a further 90 runs of the remaining 60 balls to reach a victory target of 240 at Old Trafford. With Dhoni around, Jadeja made sure he got the big hits out of the way almost every over. He smashed sixes at will and kept things under control at all times. even with Dhoni just content with collecting singles. Ravindra Jadeja and MS Dhoni produced 116-run partnership to drag the 2011 winners back in contention. But a stupendous 47th over from Matt Henry, where he went for just 5 runs, changed the complexion of the game. Bolt caught the huge wicket of Jadeja in the next over, with the left-hander skiing a good length delivery to Williamson for 75. The moment of the match, though, came from Martin Guptill. Dhoni tucked the ball to the onside and was going for a second run. He was run out for 50, courtesy a direct hit from Guptill that all but sealed the game. Nisham got the final wicket of Yuzvendra Chahal to spark celebrations in the Kiwis camp. Henry returned 3 for 37 from his 10 overs and was named man of the match. The Kiwis will therefore face England or Australia in Sunday's showpiece at Lord's after successfully defending 239 for 8.
What a performance from New Zealand to defend.
Jadeja's heroics with the bat went in vain as Team India was defeated by New Zealand, and with that they booked a berth in the final for the second time in a row. This match also will give the team management a chance to assess themselves, because playing 3 wicketkeepers in the side and also the lineup and the number 4 spot conundrum is still something they haven't been able to solve. Hopefully in the near future they will be able to provide some answers to those questions. With cameraman S. Jashankar, this is Tapush Bhattacharya, DD News, Old Trafford.
And Prime Minister Modi has appreciated Indian cricket team's fighting spirit in the semi-final of the ICC Cricket World Cup. The Prime Minister has tweeted, I quote, "A disappointing result, but good to see the Team India's fighting spirit till the very end. India batted, bowled, fielded well throughout the tournament, of which we are very proud. Wins and losses are a part of life. Best wishes to the team for their future endeavour," unquote. And in the second semi-final of the World Cup today, while old rivals Australia and England are to lock horns in Birmingham, 4 years of planning will be put online for England and would be looking to reach their first final since 1992. While Aussies have beaten England in the warm-up as well as the group stage game, but the hosts will want to settle scores in the match where it matters the most.
Again offside, this time to cover.
Australia's dominating performance at Lord's, where they beat England by 64 runs in the group stages, is still fresh in everyone's mind. But the 5-time champions had announced themselves even before the tournament actually began, triumphing over the host by 12 runs in Southampton in the warm-ups. England, on the other hand, have been inconsistent. They have struggled to chase scores throughout the tournament. Their 20-run defeat to Sri Lanka in a chase of a modest 233 exemplified that. They will have to hope for a much solid batting performance from their batsmen should Australia get the chance to bat first yet again. Australia too have looked a lot more comfortable defending. The 2 games they lost in the group stages were both while chasing. The second defeat came in the last group game against South Africa, where they fell short of 325 by 10 runs. That defeat has forced Australia to look at potential changes. Peter Handscomb, who was drafted into the side as a replacement for the injured Sean Marsh, is confirmed to make his World Cup debut. Matthew Wade has been lined up as a replacement for Usman Khwaja in the side, who has been ruled out of the tournament with a hamstring strain. Wade has been in terrific form for Australia A and may be considered in place of the misfiring Glenn Maxwell. England seemed relatively settled coming into the semis on back-to-back 2 wins against sides like India and New Zealand. But the 2 recent defeats to Australia might well cancel out any perceived psychological advantage. One can expect a close affair. A look at Australia in the semi-finals and it clearly leaves them with a big advantage. Australia have never lost any of their 7 previous World Cup semi-finals, although they did tie it with South Africa at this very venue in Birmingham 20 years ago. Australia's big game experience could be the key, but perhaps less so than if these 2 teams were meeting in a final. And the Edgbaston factor is huge, with England having 110 in a row in all formats at the Birmingham ground that produces this country's most partisan atmosphere. It's one of the highly anticipated matches at the Cricket World Cup, but Australia's sold-out semi-final clash with England could take place in front of 1,000 of empty seats. That's due to a late twist in the group stage after tens of thousands of India fans had already brought tickets to Thursday's second versus third Edgbaston clash. Tapush Bhattacharya's report, DD News, Birmingham.
And news now from Wimbledon, where 8-time champion Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal will meet in the semi-finals of the Wimbledon this year at the All England Club tomorrow. It has been 11 years since Federer and Nadal played what many people believe is the greatest tennis match of all times. The other semi-final will feature Spain's Roberto Bautista Agut and defending champion Novak Djokovic. It is Agut's first Grand Slam semi-final at the Wimbledon. And the unseeded Barbora will face Serena Williams in this Wimbledon 2019 singles semi-finals today, while in another match, the former world number 1 Simona Halep and WTA finals champion Elina Svitolina will meet for the 9th time. And with that, let's now move on to our next segment, the morning print, to get you a glimpse of what the national dailies are carrying this morning. We're beginning first with the news from Hindustan Times, and yes, this is the news we got you earlier as well. This is about cabinet okaying key bills, setting fresh agenda, and this piece here talks in detail about the many decisions taken by the cabinet yesterday, how this is it's going to be death penalty under POCSO that has been cleared. It's also a Ponzi scheme crackdown, law aimed at tackling illicit deposits approved, and also not for the transgender rights bill. While this is also in fact single body to resolve the water disputes within 2 years. So the major cabinet decisions they had taken yesterday. Okay, moving on now to this piece of opinion being carried in the Hindustan Times, and this is on the occasion of the World Population Day. That's today. This talks about how there's a need to invest in ensuring women's sexual and reproductive rights, and this is talking about how in fact, a critical domain where we continue to fail our youth, however, is in helping them to exercise their right to make free, informed and responsible choices, especially in sexual and reproductive rights. And evidence highlights that we in India continue to neglect and violate the sexual and the reproductive rights of the youth. And in fact, somewhat similar on the occasion of the World Population Day, this is also a piece of opinion being carried by the Times of India as well, and this talks about how India's shifting population profile, how working people will continue to grow, but we also need to plan for the burgeoning elderly. Then, well, this talks about the good news is in fact that the mortality is on the decline and life expectancy is on the rise. In other words, Indians are living longer, working longer, and will continue to do so. And in fact, projections by the UNFPA, which is United Nations Population Fund, saying that women will live longer than men, an important factor that needs to be kept in mind while formulating policies and designing programs for the elderly people. It also talks about how life expectancy for women will increase from 69.4 in 2011 to 79.7 in 2061, as opposed to for men, which is from 66 in 2011 to 76.1 in 2061. Also important studies they are taking place, and this is coming on the occasion of the World Population Day. That's today. Okay, let's now move on to the Indian Express, and this is talking about news that we have picked up from here is the finance minister's statement saying that every number in budget is authentic and that there's no cuts in the public spending, and she's in fact dispelling the opposition charge that the GDP figures published by the government are not consistent everywhere. She said that the number, each and every number is authentic. She stood by it in saying that the nominal GDP figures published in the budget, the economic survey and the interim budget in February are all authentic data. She's in fact said, and I'm quoting her here, "I will assure the House that there is no need for any speculation on figures given in budget and every number is authentic." Okay, and towards the end, yes, we are talking about, well, World Cup and Ashes preview. This talks about, this is from the Times of India. England have won 9 of the last 11 ODIs against Australia, but before the second semi-final, while Australian coach has performed a unique ritual, it says something which he and his opening partner Matthew Hayden used to do before a game, and this is also in fact talking about what the strengths and the weaknesses and what is tilting in the balance slightly in the host favor is that since the last week or so, Australia have been severely plagued by injuries. Well, so this is an analysis of how the match is going to be, the second semi-final between Australia and England. will be today. And there's also a column by Krish Shrikant here talking about how England needs Morgan and Root to join the party as well. The second semi-final, remember, is a contest between two strong sides with strikingly similar strengths and weaknesses, the column here adds. And we have also picked up a column written by Jock Carlos here, while this talks about how New Zealand decision to bat is based on research, and this talks about how in fact there was plenty of speculation about the reasons why MS Dhoni didn't bat at number 5 or number 6, but decisions like that are made by the captain and coach for very good reasons, and although everybody else has the right to question them, the experience and knowledge of men like Ravi Shastri and Kohli should be respected. And this further talks about how most tactical decisions include an element of risk. They don't always succeed, but as long as the best people are making the choices for the right reasons, then supporters and commentators should be careful with the criticism, especially if it is made with the advantage of retrospect. Also, this is coming in fact on the back of India losing that game against New Zealand yesterday, and but also talks about how a great deal of credit must go to the Black Caps, who lost a couple of games before the semi-final and were commonly thought to have lost form, but it says we can only hope that we get half as much drama and entertainment from the second semi-final, that's today, between Australia and England. Okay, with that, it's a wrap on the morning print for now, but let's now move on to our next segment and check the significance of this day in the history.
Freedom fighter and first Defence Minister of India, Sardar Baldev Singh, was born on this day in the year 1902. On the same day in 2003, writer Bhishma Sahni died in Delhi. He was one of the pioneers of modern Hindi literature and was conferred with Padma Bhushan. On this day in 2006, several serial bomb blasts occurred in local trains of Mumbai, which claimed 187 lives and left around 700 injured.
And a look now at the important events for today.
World Population Day is being observed today. Union Minister of Health and Family Welfare, Dr. Harshvardhan, to preside over the function on World Population Day 2019 in New Delhi. NABARD to celebrate its 38th Foundation Day. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will address the function. The theme for the inaugural session is to gainfully engage rural youth. The second semi-final of ICC Cricket World Cup between England and Australia to be played at Edgbaston, Birmingham.
And moving on now, well, it's been 20 years since the Kargil War of 1999. Our correspondent Nandita Dagar visited the point 4875 that was recaptured by Paramir Chakra Captain Vikram Batra. She spoke with his brother on the Batra top where he attained martyrdom. Listen in.
We are atop point 4875. The mountain ridge point 4875 is 4,875 meters high, and over there where you see the Indian tricolor is the Batra top. That is where Shaheed late Captain Vikram Batra performed the ultimate sacrifice for which he got the Paramveer Chakra. 20 years ago, that Captain Vikram Batra recaptured this post, or the Batra post, from the Pakistanis. Of course, 13 Jammu and Kashmir Rifles first captured point 5140 mountain, and then they got to capturing this point 4875.
The same date, 7th July 2019, 20 years exactly, after Captain Vikram Batra performed a supreme sacrifice. What are your thoughts, sir? He's your twin brother. I'm sure there is a special bond.
And I, got a confirmation from General Joshi that Vishal, finally a dream of visiting 4875 is on, and we've got the due permissions for you. The first thought which ran across my mind was that Vikram is calling me and I'm going there up to meet him. And I spoke to my parents in the morning right from the top.
Yes, yes.
And I wish Vikram could have given the same call 20 years back to mom and dad.
It was one of the bloodiest battles of the Kargil war, and also something that was the most tough, because as you can see, these are look at this ridge over here. The gradient here is very, very steep, and over there in the distance you can see troops from 13 Jammu and Kashmir Rifles who are trekking their way up, and they are commemorating and recreating the same route they took, and paying a homage to these mountains where they lost so many brethren, so many comrades in arms. So this is the Pakistani 120mm mortar gun which was captured by 13 Jammu and Kashmir rifles when the attack began on the night of 4th and 5th July, and eventually it was captured, as we told you, by Captain Vikram Batra, the Batra top over there where he attained martyrdom on 7th of July. Interestingly, Lieutenant Colonel Y.K. Joshi, he was the commanding officer of the 13 Jammu and Kashmir Rifles, and he is currently the corps commander of 14 Corps.
Today must be a special day. You are commemorating exactly 20 years. What are they sharing, sir? All these people who teched up. And I'm sure it's not easy with the kind of gradient and snow-capped peaks that they have climbed.
You know, point 4875 was the most dominating feature in this area. And the enemy also realized this, so they held this very strongly. And plus, the terrain in this area is also very difficult. The grade is extremely steep. So it requires, you know, 2 Paramveer Chakras in one assault to capture this feature.
Very well said, sir.
And this, you know, is a historic record that 13 Sacrifice created, which is very difficult to replicate in any war, you know, by any army of the world. So it's a matter of great pride for me. My chest swells with pride, you know, when I even think or talk about 13 Sacrifice, the way of the brave. So you can see the flag flying, you know, fluttering high with pride.
Yes.
And this all goes to the sacrifice made by Captain Vikram Batra, like I said, who earned his Paramveer Chakra here, laid down his life, made a supreme sacrifice for the honor of the nation, and paved the way for 13 Jacrif to capture this feature.
With camera person Sanjay Jaina on point 4875 at the Batra top, this is Nandita Dagar for DD News.
Bharat Mata ki
Jai!
Bharat Mata ki
Jai!
Bharat Mata ki
Jai!
Captain Vikram Batra ki
Jai!
Okay, moving on now to our Good News India story. And while there's an increased emphasis on water conservation and rainwater harvesting, today we're bringing you the story of a man who brought a dead lake back to life. And while today he's also reviving many more water bodies across Bengaluru. This is the story of Anand Maligawad. Take a look.
Water is life. Most of us are familiar with this teaching, but bringing it to practice in our lives is not always easy. One engineer in Bengaluru has made protecting and reviving dying lakes in a city the mission of his life. He has so far revived 6 lakes. The journey began with Kyalasannahalli Lake near the Electronic City. Engineer by profession, Anand Maligawad got the opportunity to work on water bodies as part of a CSR initiative of his employer, Sansera Foundation. With monetary support from the company and cooperation of the locals, the lake was brought back to life in just 45 days. There was a time when there was hardly any water in the lake and it had converted into a dumping ground for garbage. But now it has returned to its original shape. The project inspires Anand to such an extent that he left his secure job to make conservation of lakes his primary vocation.
जन शक्ति ही जल शक्ति है. ये क्या है, ये एक आदमी लीडरशिप बन के अगर 130 करोड़ आदमी को एक मैसेज दे दिया, हमारे देश में वो फॉलो करता है. इसलिए ये पावरफुल बन के हमारा पानी का सेवा होगा और बचत होगा. एंड ऑल्सो सेकेंड थिंग इज लेक्स आर आइस ऑफ द अर्थ.
Anand's efforts did not only save Kyalasannahalli Lake, but soon transformed it into a habitat for fish and other creatures. The first challenge in the process was to stop waste sewer water and garbage from being discharged into the lake. Anand reached out to the local villagers, spread the word on the need and ways to save the lake. Once the locals came on board, the massive cleanliness process started. Nearly 4 lakh cubic meters of waste and mud was removed. Small islands were created. These islands today are home to a wide variety of birds. 18,000 trees were planted around the lake, many of them with great medicinal values. Today, 60% of the lake is water and the rest is green cover. Anand's efforts brought the dead lake back to life and beautified the entire region. Today, Anand is reviving many other lakes in the city. As his inspiring journey continues, people around are also realizing the sense behind the saying, water is life. Aisha Khanam's report from Bengaluru for DD News.
In some other news now, the Digital Radio Mondial, or the DRM, is a set of digital audio broadcasting technologies. The DRM system is currently used for analog radio broadcasting, including the AM broadcasting, particularly shortwave, and the FM broadcasting. Akashvani, or the All India Radio, has initiated in this new broadcasting system. The DRM system ensures the efficient and complete digitization, committing to digital radio rollout. It also allows seamless transition to digital radio with the upgrade of the existing transmitter infrastructure.
डिजिटल रेडियो मॉन्डियल ये एक डिजिटल ब्रॉडकास्टिंग टेक्निक है और इससे ब्रॉडकास्ट करने पे इसकी जो रिसीवर में हमें क्वालिटी मिलती है वो एफएम जैसे ही क्वालिटी मिलती है, कम पावर में ही ज़्यादा कवरेज एरिया मिल जाता है। एक ही ट्रांसमीटर से हम कई प्रोग्राम चैनल दे सकते हैं, ऑडियो के साथ साथ इसमें टेक्स्ट भी जा सकता है, तो इसके डिजिटल में होने की वजह से डिजिटल के एडवांटेजेस इसमें बहुत है। डीआरएम ऑल इंडिया रेडियो ने अडॉप्ट किया है और 35 ट्रांसमीटर्स मीडियम वेव में और 3 ट्रांसमीटर शॉर्ट वेव में लगा चुके हैं। तो आज के दिन में हमारे पास 38 ट्रांसमीटर्स डीआरएम के हैं।
And moving on now, taking a look at how the weather conditions are going to be for today. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the news. But for all the latest news and updates around the clock, you can follow us on Twitter and YouTube. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at DD News Official. And before we end this edition of the Breakfast News, we are leaving you with the glimpses of 12 teams of sculptors from around the world building monumental sculptures from hay and straw in the Alpine town. Take a look at those visuals and we wish you a great day ahead. Thanks for being with us.